Hello, guys, and welcome to Cat's Video Production. The Lynn Su, another live with To Cat's Video Production, and we're here to ask her question about Republicans, about the local situation in Miami and Aventura neighborhood and the Sunny Isles neighborhood. What's going on there? And you can ask your questions if you just text us in our chat. Please do that. We're waiting for your question. And also, we have a link. You can use this link and you can appear in our show and ask the question personally, or just, you know, tell us what's going on in your area and share some special news. What do you want to share with our audience? Okay, guys, hello and welcome. And so, Lynn Su in our studio. Lynn, how are you? Long time no
Hi.
see. And that
Uh,
was actually more of my fault about the yesterday we skip our program because I got a training from the beginning and I called to the Lynn and say, "Oh, Lynn, sorry, my fault, we missed the broadcast." And she say, "Okay, no worries, Nick, we can do it next day, very next day. We here, guys, for you." Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to see to meet your club, your fan club here. So I just want to say hi to Alice back. I noticed that she sent us a message. So hi, Alice.
Yeah. So, Lynn, tell us from the beginning, we started not from the local problem, but just a little bit we're talking about the Republican in general, because we got only that opportunity to ask you, because you closer to the Republicans party. Just tell us, please, what's going on in Republican world. I received so many emails from Donald Trump campaign. They're always telling they have some fundraising for something. They
Hmm.
got some issues with Democrats from the radical left who just want to avoid Republicans itself. And Joe Biden, he told the MAGA, Make America Great Again movement, it's, that's something like a fascist organization or something like that. In a couple of words, what is your opinion about Biden's statement? Or what do you think? And what's going on in Republicans so far?
Well, we always know our current president isn't very good with creating names, right? Unlike our former president, who is very good at creating names for people. So he could just copy the word MAGA and just add ultra MAGA or mega MAGA, which is, I think, is more appropriate to say mega MAGA. But um, what I see as a movement on the Republican side is I'm very proud of are Americans, like American loving, America first people that are getting together. The Republicans are solidifying, we're becoming more organized. As we know, like how organized Democrats are. They have a queue, they have a line, they have a group, they have their way of creating their power, right? And how to stay in power. And now I think we're getting a little bit organized, not just about staying in power, but really looking into, like I've heard that there are a lot more encouragement to get people involved, like grassroots. There is more also minorities, right? If you see, like, if you look at the lineup for Florida this coming upcoming election, like I'm Asian, right? We have a lot of blacks, we have a lot of Hispanics. We also still have,
And also Russians running for the, for the state, for the
yeah,
Senate. Yeah.
yeah, it's
In Georgia.
really awesome. I think it's great that we have this kind of mix because it really does now represent, we're bringing everybody, giving everybody a seat at the table. And we really need that because, we all come from different backgrounds, and to be able to contribute to how our country is going to go is really, really important. So I see that the Republican Club is seeing the importance of that and is really encouraging it. So, so inside of that, I think that they're coming together, they're hosting a whole lot of events. They are focusing on, the communities and the composition of the communities. So I think that's a fantastic thing that's happening right now.
And I know some clubs was created and working for the long time in Aventura and the Sunny Isles as well. Sure. So, Jocelyn, tell us about that Republican clubs, what they normally doing, why do we need Republican clubs, and what is going on in there, and why it's so many of them. Maybe you can suggest it. Some of the Republican clubs who are you visited and who you attended.
Well, I visited one that our former commissioner who was running for mayor, our mayoral candidate in Sunny Isles, Larissa, she
Larissa
created a group,
Station, yeah. Mhm.
right? She created a group in Sunny Isles, in Greater Sunny Isles. So if you live in the border everywhere, that's part of that group. There's also one just slightly north of here, which is in Hollandale, right? So just across the border, there's a Hollandale, the Beaches Club. In I'm starting one myself in Miami Beach, along with another community leader. Her name is Ines Flax. We are creating a Federated Republican Women of Miami Beach. So there's a lot. I think the Log Cabin of Miami, which is for the LGBTQ community, they are also very active now and very, very self-expressed. I love it. I love how they, they see clearly through the "Don't Say Gay" bill. Like they're not playing along with that. They're actually really educating themselves on the bill and seeing how important it is. So when we get together in these clubs, every club has a forte, which means like there are certain things that they do. Like for example, I think there's going to be a new chapter of the Republican Liberty Caucus, also in Miami. So that club is also, taking off, getting started. Like all these different clubs, they have different emphasis, right? So there's people who are more pro education, or they want to get petitions out for certain books to be removed from schools. There are, like the CCDF, for example, which is also meeting in Miami Beach. There's also, it depends on what you get involved in. Like I think the Federated Women is a lot about like, supporting the candidate when they're campaigning, helping to knock on doors, and that kind of thing. The Liberty Caucus is more on policies, I mean, like, and they also do grassroots activities, which is, phone banking, fundraising and all that other stuff. So those are all pretty much like that's the movement that we see on the ground that I think is exciting,
It
because
is.
that just means that like we're all, as people, we the people are getting involved, right? We're not letting them, the politicians, just take over and do whatever they want to do.
So
So
the
this is
Simeon
great.
Parnas, he's asking if there's some hangouts between Republicans. I said the hangout, this is the only works. This is only work. Even if after elections, it's getting worse and worse because it's they're all about the problems. There is no hangouts at all. Yeah.
Hangouts? What did he mean by that? Hangouts like a party, or?
Like a party, yes. What's it, maybe a Republicans party if you just like a
Well,
resting
I
and
mean,
chatting from.
if he's interested, we can start a hangout together. And I mean, like, I think, I mean, it's good to be around like-minded people. It's funny because I just heard a story about somebody who put on a Facebook post, right, and said like, are there any conservatives out there who want to go out for a drink or something like that? And then he just got hammered, right? Because like nobody wants to hang out with him. So I mean, luckily, like in our area, I think we're pretty safe here. So we have some areas that we can go hang out, and we can, create something that will be fun for conservatives to get together, have drinks, and talk
Exactly.
about things and see what we can. The best conversations, right, are these napkin conversations. You know what I mean? When you're at a coffee shop, I mean, that's how J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter book, or books.
That's how it's a business doing. Because if it's
Hmm.
unformal,
Yeah,
environment around, you can make more and more because the
yeah,
people
you're
are
more
more open.
relaxed. Hmm.
Yes, and you can do some stuff. So there is another topic of that situation because we all live in like a touristic city, the big city, Miami, a lot of the tourists. It's all years around. It does not matter what time is there. The people on the
Mhm.
street. In this situation, give me your personal opinion. Is it police department do good job in Aventura and Sunny Isles, for example, and the old Miami-Dade, or is there some sort of problems?
Well, I think there's definitely a rise in crime, right? I think that that's the common consensus. I think we really see there is this. I mean, like I've heard about people who park their car in a parking lot, go to the supermarket, and come back and have their windows smashed in. And this is in Aventura, right? So, I mean, like these are
Or
things that I've
this
heard.
is like the people try to steal something, or they're just to show
Mhm.
in the hate for certain group of people.
Well, that remains to be seen. We never caught that person. You know, I don't know if anything was lost in the car, but sometimes people fear even to just do that, to go to the supermarket. Now that doesn't work. This is we're not in a we're not in a terrorist country or a third world country, right? We're in America, which is one of the greatest countries in the world. We have to make sure that like our people feel safe. Now, inside of that, like I've been very involved in the Miami-Dade Chief of Police group. So there's an association of chief of police, and I've been like really honored that I've been invited to join that group and recommended to be in there. Really working with law enforcement and seeing what their challenges are and what's going on with that. So first and foremost, it's important that we don't let our cities defund any police. And sometimes the defunding doesn't come inside of like, okay, here's the budget, let's cut the budget, right? Sometimes it comes in the form of not hiring new police officers. And like we have to really look carefully at that and make sure that like, is the capacity being filled? Because like if we're not at capacity, there's a calculation of all of this, right? What's the size of the population? Who needs to be there? So we really do get to support our police officers by being the voice, because the police officers at the end of the day, they have a commission, they have the manager, all of this gets managed. And if you're not looking and you're not careful and you're not vigilant about what's going on in your city, you could you could be losing like the size of the force or the police officers. Good thing we have Governor DeSantis, right, who
Yes,
said
and he
like you will.
suggested to get some money to the
Hmm.
police officers who treated bad in another states to come to the
Hmm.
Florida and give them $5,000 ahead of like a bonus to came to the Florida, and that's a good situation. But I just remind to everyone what the Miami, the biggest city of Republican state, Florida, is completely Democrats and under the Democrats, which is for us, for me, that's kind of weird. Why Republicans do that? Why it's going to happen? The biggest city is under Democrats. That's interesting. Maybe
Well,
that's the reason
usually.
why the criminal level is higher, because the every Democrat states, even in Chicago, the 10 times more a level of the crime right now, and it's still growing up. They still do nothing, and even it's California, the same situation.
Hmm.
Police cannot catch some criminals on the street because it's does not matter. In a couple hours, they anyway been gonna be in the street, and why put your the officer thinking why I have to put my life in a risk, because it's nothing gonna happen, because the government is allowed the criminal going higher and higher, and that's more political situation. That's not police fault. This is more politicians involved with this situation. I don't know why. I don't know why Democrats so involved to create so criminal areas everywhere they are presented. What's the reason?
Well, there's a definite mentality among the the left side, right? That if these people they focus on minorities. So when they see that minorities, the weak, right, people, because they feel like they want to be they want to protect them. Um, what I see is like, yes, they're worth protecting, but we also need to look at, when we're dealing with public policy, right? It's public. That means that's the majority, the mass. And then we deal with all the minorities in a different way. And I'm saying that like me myself being a minority, and I know that a lot of us here who are maybe listening are also immigrants in some way, like first generation, second generation. But when they're administering these kinds of laws, it's really focusing on minority. Like when you see how many people really get killed by police officers that are unarmed, right? We can count them like it's not even in the triple digits here. So, and yet they're focusing it on like it happens every single day. And I'm not trying to demean, BLM in any way, or, any people who have been, who that has happened to. But in reality, when we're looking at the majority here, it's not happening. Now, I have to attribute something to inflation as well, right? If we're talking about the rise in crime, there's also an issue of like how, when the economy's going bad, there's not enough money, people find easier options to
Or
commit,
maybe, or maybe illegal immigrants everywhere. It's also changed the situation because
oh
they
yeah.
normally cannot find a good job. Of course,
Hmm.
they not try to even
Hmm.
teach English language. There is nothing to do. They just simple don't want to something. They got some money from government, and that's enough. And they try to, live as they live before in their own country they was born. So that maybe that's the mentality. They don't want to change the mentality and live continue in United States as they live in or the personal country. That's the situation also can change it. But I wanna ask you about kids. Yeah, because we're talking about adult person and we understand that situation, but
Hmm.
I want to ask you about safety on Aventura and Sunny Isles schools. What's going on in that topic? Is the school safety? Is the our children's in safe situation? Because the crime, as you said, even now in Florida, Republican states is growing up. I can imagine how people send a child to school in Chicago or in California, for example, when the crime is getting higher for the more than 10 times up.
Well, so far so good, right? Right now that we have in Sunny Isles and Aventura. Um, I think that they now I'm not really clear on whether they have armed guards in schools, right? I mean, there's a lot of talk up in Tallahassee about really making schools not a gun-free zone. Okay, which is like, well, people are thinking, what are they going to do to our kids, right? But what I see is like the reason why, I mean, unless we have armed guards there, like we do in like public buildings, like federal buildings or government buildings, right?
Yeah,
Then that's the only way that we can make sure that our children are going to be safe. I mean, safe from gun violence.
gun violence, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Now, with that said, like I think at this point, with the immigrant issue, I think the cities also get to ramp up. Right now, the state attorney's office is also making sure, like they're hunkering down on issues of human trafficking. So, I mean, like none of us are really safe from human trafficking, and it's not just coming from the border, right? The border, we know that's happening for sure. But really actually cracking down and making sure that like none of that happens to our people here, that's also very important. So I mean, I'm just looking at things as a whole. I think our cities are okay, but if we let our guard down, we don't make sure that we have enough law enforcement in place, and we are not vigilant about what is going on in our cities, right? Then, you know the safest place is when you're most careful, right?
Mm.
So always be aware and careful about that. And I think that, we will be, I mean, I personally will be making sure that like safety and all this, crime, we really control it. either with, harsher punishments, or, I mean, things like, we're also looking at how to, like, reform sentences by judges to not have them be certain standards, and actually, like, the crime and the weight of the penalty is like balanced, right? So there are a lot of things that, like, either over harsh or underdone. But basically, like, we will not let what happened to California happen here. So there's not going to be any of that, like, people go and raid a Walmart or a CVS and, like, get away with it with a slap on the wrist and, like, gone. I mean, it's just that we're not going to let that happen.
So before we talk about the local businesses, I want to just ask you a little bit more about schools, because that's a very important thing. Now I'm not talking about the gun violence, and that's understandable. What the security has to be armed, of course. Another situation, there is no point to keep security in a school, because we know the criminals, if they think in something, they probably armed, and they can create something horrible, and are unarmed the person's security does not stop them. That's understandable. But what about another type of the crime, when the people just schools, but when the students, the small our children go to the school and go back from the school, they also can be forced by the criminals, and
Yes.
can something thinks it's going to be happened, as we adult person, as you mentioned, go to the supermarket and go back and see that our car, the window is smashed, for example. Yeah. But when the students go from school, they're also alone, and any statistics in that case, is it getting worse or it's getting better? And what do you think the police doing in this case? And what do you think politicians have to do in this case? Do we really have to be concerned on that topic when the students comes from school? That certain period of the this is my trip from the school to home, for example.
Yeah.
That, do we have to be concerned on that situation, or it's okay in our neighborhood in Aventura and Sunny Isles?
That's a very, very good question, and a top concern, right? I mean, like, if we're concerned about, like, what our kids are learning, we should also be concerned about their safety in getting to school. So what I see is that, like, I think that so like I said, I don't have a certain number or statistics of things that have happened to children on or to or from school. What I see is, like, what I see is that there police officers in general are very aware of what is going on in terms of illegal immigrants, right? In terms of, like, whatever it is that, that they are concerned with, like people with mental health, like stray people around the streets, homeless and whatnot. Like, I mean, we don't have a lot of that in this area, but police officers are on alert and aware of it. So I think like I said, we want to make sure that we have enough officers on the street, right? We're not cutting any budget for police officers. Although now, our president just said, like, he's not defunding the police, right? So that's
Oh
good news
yeah,
for us.
yeah. But this is gonna be happen probably close to the presidential election again. Yeah, because when we're talking about cut the budget and defund the police, we're also talking
Uh-huh.
about that.
Yeah.
There is not enough police officer to control criminals in area when your kids go into school. Think about that. Nobody, the Democrats does not mention that, never ever. But we have to, as a parents, we have to understand this is
Mhm.
also important things. So,
Mhm.
Lynn, tell me, is there any options to get statistic in the open source. How many criminals with the students in a certain area, not even on Florida, maybe on other states. Is there any options to get that statistic openly from open sources?
Um, I believe that you can, like, let's say if you're interested, like you're in Sunny Isles, you
Yes.
could directly talk to your either commissioners or the police chief and request information because they keep these stats. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I attended several city commission meetings. The chief of police will come, the police chief of the city will come and present. Like this
Mm-hmm.
year we did this year, we reduced crime by however many percent because that is their performance. Like how well they lead the police force in their city is reflected in the amount of crime, in what they catch, the reduction in burglary for homes, like all of that. So, I mean, your city is the best resource. And if they don't, you should ask them and request that they do. So that's for me that what I've seen that has happened and what we see from there. And they do have people like keeping these stats, police reports being recorded, so all of that is available at your request.
Okay, so only request, right? So there is no open sources. There is no questions if I requested from the police some certain information. They do not ask me why do I need that information. For example, they have to provide it on the first request.
Well, you know what? I think it's something that like you could bring up to your city commission and have that be public information.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you think back about at it, like all they're cover-ups, right? And what's the job of our elected officials and what we pay our taxes for is this is it. Safety, right?
Safety first, yeah.
Safety first, our constitutional rights protected, right? The federal government, the state government gets to protect that, and safety. So this is, I mean, why else would we pay that, right? I mean, for free schools, and that that's not just it. So basically, demand of your commissioners and mayors to, provide this information. So, like one example that I was going to say was like they were also hiding information like this is the Parkland shooting, right? Like when the kid had an issue, he was sent back or he was I don't remember the details, but I remember that they had identified that has a potential to do that, but the school just didn't report it. There are a lot of these. I mean, like if you hear from out of state, there are issues like that too, where schools or I mean, like
Well, you're talking about
police
the
or
transgender story in Washington D.C. when they indicate the guy comes to the restroom with the girls and he raped a girl and they try to hide that information from even parents, right? And the parents
Mhm.
started to talking that openly, and the school administration does not hide that situation in the future, and it was a big scandal, right? You're talking about that?
Yeah, just like all of this that is all of the things that just don't get uncovered, right? So, I mean, there are so many different examples inside of the news that we watch, and it depends on which channel, where we find our sources from. There's many of that, right? The whole point is that, like, do we need to know the facts in order for us to protect ourselves? Definitely.
And also I just wanted to be more provide more specific in that situation. That is weird because there is actually uh, school administration try to hide that scandal. They try to say nothing happened because they were afraid that guy was identify himself as a transgender, and that's what just make them stop to do any further actions, but they have to do because it's crime. So, and that guy's not stopped. They do that crime, that's a serious crime. The rape is a serious crime again, and that happens again. So in that case, I think the school administration has to be more guilty than even like any departments, any police departments.
Mhm. Yeah. So there's just a massive imbalance going on, right? Like there's a compassion for minorities, for transgender, for all kinds of things that get covered up. Now, when we're talking about crime and issues in our city, like what are the statistics? These are two different things, right? I mean, there's things that are happening at the school level that you really want to make sure that the teachers actually talk to the parents about it. You know, there's a situation like this going on, like what's, you know, how what can be resolved, and they need to get law enforcement involved, like get law enforcement involved. Like this is, to me, it's just, you know, like common sense, right? Now, when you're looking at crime in general, what's going on in your city, how safe is your city? What is going on? Have there been anything in your building? Have there been anything in your neighborhood? Like all of this, I think, I think it's something that the city should make apparent and transparent for you.
So in the
So
building,
all of
that's a
everything
very
is
good
all around
topic.
transparency.
That's
Hmm.
a very good topic about buildings, because you also have a rights to come to your management and ask what's the criminal situation is, and ask for the, because I live with the building, and there is no certain information regarding that, and I ask about some my personal noise complaint and something like that, and they do nothing because they are lazy and nobody forced them. So even I called to the non-emergency police department. They came and they told me, oh, that all depends of the management, because you have to go through the lease and see if some certain topics inside, and if something inside the management decision, if they can stop the lease with the very noisy neighbors or do something against some criminal situation, because sometimes it's really dangerous when you live in a big building. You don't want to live with the criminals who's just running around with the guns or something like that. It's a horrible situation, but it happens here in Miami because it's Republican, territory. So as you
Democrat territory,
saying,
I mean.
Democrats, yes, I'm sorry, Democrat territory. Uh, um, so
Well,
you have
there's a
rights to go to the management, ask them, okay, show me the criminal
mhm.
statistic, right?
The management, I don't know. When it comes to a private entity, but I think like when it's a government based, right? It's the city, the municipality, the county. You have the right to find out because that's what they're there for. As for like, let's say you have a building, right? I mean, unless you pay to get a questionnaire filled out, you don't even know what the percentage of private residents, I mean,
Ah, got it.
owner occupant or renters.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like most of the condos in Florida are mostly rented. They're investment properties or vacation homes. So owner occupied isn't common. You end up having a lot of these people who, that's why the whole short term rental was banned, because they just turned out to be these drug houses and, like safe houses for criminals. So, I mean, like, as much as I didn't want to admit it, I just thought it was such a fantastic idea to do short-term rental until, like, you see like what's happening in those buildings, and it's just, we have to really look at that, look at that
Mhm.
carefully, and make sure that, like, when you do purchase or rent someplace, that this building doesn't allow such behavior, right? Because that means that it's less stable.
Oh,
You
you're
have
looking
more
for the
people
close
coming in and out.
community, right? The close community who lives on a certain
Right.
rules.
If you
Yeah.
have, yeah, if you're living in a condo building, for example,
Con-
right? Yeah, they have certain requirements. You can rent no more than however many times a month. And of course, people violate those things. But yes, exactly. If you're not a person who lives in the building, the HOA will not give you any information, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. So
Unfortunately, yeah, because it's very important for our safety. First of all, I want to ask you the one question. So, almost a year in Sunny Isles, new mayor Lana Goldman. How the criminal situation has changed? Just wondering, in your personal opinion.
I haven't heard anything drastic, like no, not even, nothing yet. I just hear that there's a lot of of expenditures going on. So, I hear a lot of expenditures going on, but I don't hear a lot of in terms of crime. So, if I'm looking at my district as a whole, I guess like what would be the most active in terms of crime would be Miami Beach.
Mhm.
So, and that's understandable. We're living in like you said, right? This is a tourist area, like all times of the year. There's no, I mean, seasonal, it just gets worse, but it's always a tourist area. We've got people going to cruises. We've got people coming to the beach. I mean, anybody who's escaping the cold coming here for warmth and like being able to relax. So we have so many people coming in and out, right? And with that change, it's almost similar to what I was talking about, these like short-term rentals. You have people who are rotating. There's always a bad, seed that follows and comes into that mix. And they come in just to take advantage of you. Why is it that they're pickpocketers at like, at in Times Square, right? Because like they know these tourists are like not finding their way around, and that's who they can take advantage of. So basically, like what we get to put in as residents and making sure that us living here we are safe and protected is to make sure that we have enough police and and a lot of enforcement and awareness of what's going on. So
For some
that's
reason, I'm not afraid the tourists what they come in for the relax, as you said, most of them, and I'm more afraid of the immigrants, illegal immigrants who came just for live here and got no permanent job and got no money, but wants to live better life, right? And so that would force them to do some criminal things. But let's talk about local business. That's very interesting.
but wait, you have to you can't skip over that. So
Okay,
people who
yes, you.
want so people who want a better life by coming here to steal and rob people, like
I
that's
mean illegal immigrants
yeah, illegal immigrants who
who
want
live
a
in
better life.
here, and
Yeah.
also this is the pain of neck because they live in one apartment, maybe 20 persons in one apartment, and I still have no idea how management of certain buildings allow do this, but it happens. It happens.
Mhm. Mhm.
So plus more illegal jobs because they don't have any work permits, but they work in and they raise money. That's also
Mhm.
bad for our economy, first of all, because we're all looking for the
Absolutely.
job and we got nothing, and we say, "Oh my God, how hard to find a job in the Florida?" Okay, that's not hard for the illegal immigrants who came without even no work authorization here, but working. I understand they're working and doing the hard job, but still. So as I know, the big and expensive luxury apartments here in Miami
Mhm.
hire the illegal immigrants.
Immigrants.
Yes, and and nothing changed with this situation. I'm not talking about small businesses. I'm talking about huge corporation. Could you imagine that huge corporation hire illegal without work authorization? And that's a serious crime. It's a serious crime.
Well, it's only the big corporations who can get away with it, right? Because they do have they could find someone to take their side. Now, I mean, this is like such an off the books conversation, but I mean, it's these people who have the power to, if anything were to happen, they were able to protect themselves. It's the small businesses hiring illegal immigrants that really get into trouble,
Absolutely, that's what I
right?
try to
Yeah.
talk to because
So I
it's
agree
it's
with you.
it's a weird thing. How
Mhm.
it's possible? I understand that's a politician's lobby, first of all, and that's why politicians need so many illegal aliens, not only for the just to use that information for the election for falsificate some process, but also maybe the first of all for that legal job or for the some penny they can do this job and do no guarantees nothing. That's how the millionaires build that budgets. The only this is the first of all that's unfair. The second of all it's a criminal. or maybe the first is criminal, yes, and secondly, that's not very unfair for the Americans, first of all, who really need a job and cannot find nothing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the illegal immigrant issue is huge right now, right? Like it's going to be a bigger and bigger problem. I mean, like
Because there
right
gotta
now,
be more and
we
more.
could we
I
could
really,
attribute part of the crime to a lot of these illegal immigrants, right? I mean, I don't know if you remember, but maybe about a year ago, there were like shootings in the shopping malls.
yes, I remember in Aventura.
Yeah, and all of those were actually like drug dealers, like see enemies, drug dealers that are on all what I mean, competing drug dealers that see each other in the shopping malls, spending the money that they had made so much from selling drugs across the border, and they just started shooting each other in the shopping mall without any regard for anybody else. And that's things like that is like when it's like, oh my gosh, like law enforcement step in now, right? Like it's time. So they were able to get the situation under control, but I think there were two shootings altogether
Yeah.
in the shopping malls within a week of each other. So
Before it was with the some nightclubs area, something, yeah, the close to the Aventura. Yes,
mhm,
I remember that two cases.
yeah. So I mean, like within a week of each other, it were two cases. I was going, what's going on? Right. So when I started talking to officers, they were saying, oh, it's drug dealers, like, competing for territory, and, they stepped on each other's foot. They met each other in the shopping mall or whatever, and they started shooting each other. It's
That's a scary situation because when I talk to the police officer, for example, I live in a safe in a safe area because it's a
mhm.
downtown, and I thought this my certain area is safe for living. But I talked to the police officer recently, and he told, "Oh no, this is the very dangerous area." Because the people are shooting each other almost every night. I said, "What?
Mhm.
I never heard that." He say, "Of course you never heard because you're not familiar with the situation. So you live your personal life, but I'm working as a police officer, and I'm not for sure this is very criminal and dangerous area." And I said, "Okay, if Miami downtown is a very dangerous area, what we have to talk about some ghettos, what's going on there, how people live there, because no one is living downtown in Aventura and
Did you see
Sanya.
they started setting up tents in Miami downtown?
I don't know.
I mean, well, I didn't start, but they had it for a while, but I think the tent line is getting longer, so it's looking like Los Angeles. So I was like, what's going on here? But I think that like there's also legislation coming out about doing something about that too. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, like I think the more we allow these tents, more tents to be set up, uh, the more dangerous it gets because we don't know what's going on in those tents.
That's a homeless person for sure. Yes, and I see when I come through that, I see that the people who is absented. I see the people who is looks like they took the drugs already, and that here's my questions: why the authorities do nothing about that situation? And it's not like a Los Angeles, because in Los Angeles, it's even of most expensive areas already everywhere. They peeing on the street, do wherever what they want to
Worse.
do. Yes, and the worst situation,
Well,
the
I
police
mean,
can do nothing with that because it's it, it's out of my mind how authorities allowed to do that in a cities like Miami, like Los Angeles, like New York, the biggest city. The homeless is everywhere, in a subway, on the street, close to the very expensive area, close to the stores, supermarkets, everywhere. And now I see, yes, it's more and more the tense spots under the bridge, close to the roads gate, everywhere highway gates. even if it's in downtown as well. Yes, a lot of them. Not in Aventura and Sanyals,
Not
by the
yet.
way. Yeah, not
Thank
yet.
goodness.
Yeah, not thanks to Lana Goldman. Has she want to create some shelters, build up some shelters in Sanyals? That's gonna
Mhm.
be first step, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot of expenditures coming up. Um, yeah. So, I the situation I think is just in. We definitely need to make sure that the state of Florida doesn't allow these things to perpetuate or grow. Right. We need to resolve those issues. Make sure that we have proper places for these people, and I get that there are mentally disabled people who are, I mean, mental people with mental health issues
Hmm.
that are on the streets, and we do get to address that. I mean, for the public safety, if anything, right? As compassionate far as compassion goes, I think that's where compassion has a backlash, right, on us. When we start being okay with one step, then it grows, right? It's a slippery slope. You allow a couple of tenths, it's okay, then a couple of tenths more, and then a couple of tenths more. It's just, it keeps growing. So, I mean, historically, and if you look at all over America, big cities, like seriously, like urban areas are always like more liberal. And I get that, people in urban areas, they make a lot of money.
When you're talking liberal, you mentioned radical left.
I'm mentioning liberal, and then, of course, there are people who take it a step further, right? I mean, I would like to think that most Americans are very reasonable. We're kind of in the center. We're a little center right, we're a little center left, I
Hmm.
mean, but we're always in the center. Um, it's the politics that are pulling us apart, right? And there's a meme that that Elon Musk posts on his Twitter, right?
Yeah,
That one
that's
with
what I
the
have to mention. As a
yeah.
political goal left, not we.
Yeah,
We're
the
standing on the
thing
same
shifts.
position.
Yeah. Now the thing is, because they identify themselves as a liberal or a Democrat at some point, they get pulled over to that side and start to see only whatever that is
And
being seen.
voila, you are radical right.
Yeah.
For example, but you
Yeah, it's
stand
just
in and
crazy.
do nothing.
Yeah.
It's just world moving to the hell, and
But
this is that
it's people
direction.
who make a lot of money that really have the most compassion because they feel like they want to share. They feel like they want to give back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So when they want to do that, it kind of goes to the extreme when the politics is being pulled to the left. So I mean, I'm just speculating on this. It's in no means there's no research base. There's no PhD telling me how to say this, but I'm just looking at how the way things are going,
Because it's
and it's
obvious.
like they just want to give stuff away. It's okay, if you steal less than $1,000, there's no bail, no arrest, no nothing. They just let them get away with it, and then it grows, it becomes more and more. So with that said, I think that crime is definitely on the rise, and I mean, if you guys are listening, just be vigilant with yourself and be careful when you go out, right? Make sure that like I said, make sure there's no cut in budget in your city. Make sure that you have enough police officers around.
Uh,
Now, you wanted to ask me something else, and I
I
cut
want to
you,
ask
and we
you.
went off.
This is pretty much similar, not something else, but the different angle. So the local businesses also affected by criminals. I mean, I don't really care about big businesses and corporations. I'll be honest with you, because I know that's like a very huge, and they can make money. I don't care
Yes.
about that. But the
Yeah.
small businesses and the medium businesses, which is Biden administration want to destroy, and this is also another step because they have to protect themselves, and also so many people, the criminals, come to that stores and do the bad criminal things. They try to steal something, they try to make a harm to that businesses, and that's a not really good situation because I really understand how the people feeling, because they have to pay for the rent, they have to pay for their stuff, they have to do something, to buy that some, good stuff inside for the selling, and that's the very big problem. They also pay taxes. They also pay taxes for our neighborhood to make it more comfortable for us and more just looking good for the people who live in that areas. So how help him? How help the local small and medium business?
Okay. There is I don't know. I mean, if you guys are a small business owner listening to this, like you get to tell me in the comments, right? I have it that you have to pay rent on, I mean, you have to pay tax on rental of a brick and mortar. That's one thing that I think was put in at one point and was never taken out. And this is one example of so many different barriers to entry for people who want to start a business or people who want to run a business successfully. There's like a lot of these regulations, a lot of fees, a lot of licensing, a lot of, a lot of things. And what we want to do is we want to really simplify it, like bring it down, like make sure that everything is reasonable. This is like everything is in for a reason. It's not just there because it's there. Like if a person is renting, if you rented a place, you'd have to decorate it. That means that there was no value add into that property. And I'm not saying that the tax is for value add, but there's a tax and I believe it's 5.5%. So with that said, like this is just one of the tip of the iceberg of what there is that's going on inside our state that we can definitely see and reform and, adjust and see what makes sense. So um, these are the things that when I look at, I'm looking at this as a general thing, like how can we do to support everybody? Uh, Definitely, like you know, I'm also seeing things like that that we have to treat every business the same across the board, right? And that's really pretty much the gist of it. Where'd you go? Oh,
I'm
there you are.
here. Yeah, I just make you bigger because telling the very
Oh, I'm doing
important
my
thing.
monologue.
Yes, yes, and I think the people like to watch your eyes, your emotions, how you explain everything.
Yeah. I mean,
So
like that's something that I think is very important that we have the government get out of the way, right? And I mean like state government, municipal government, like we have regulations to protect other people, to make sure that, the businesses don't take advantage of other people, right? But we also get to be out of the way of like good business owners. And most of us, I got to stress, most of us are good business owners. We want to succeed. We want to make a living. We want to have the dignity and integrity inside of our business because we want to grow it in such a way that we can be proud of. I mean, I don't think people like are out to rip each other off. So, I mean, the way that they're treating everybody is as if like we're all out there to rip people off and the
yeah,
government can make some money off of it in the meantime. And I'm not saying like Florida is necessarily like that, but there are some grandfathered in programs and legislation that was never taken out. So we really get to look in and start clearing out all this garbage. I mean, like, we were just talking about, I mean, I was just having a conversation with someone about being a cosmetologist, right? Going to school, getting a license. How much money do you have to pay in school? Like
yeah.
just to cut hair, really? You got to
Mhm.
pay tuition for 6 months and then, and then take a
Or
test and
even
then
if
take
you
a
got,
license and
or
like,
even
oh
if you
goodness.
got the license in New York, for example, you cannot move and work without license here. You have to do that process all again. This
Mhm.
is unfair because
Mhm.
first of all, you have to spend time. The second of all, you have to spend money. So
Yes.
yeah, and
There's so many barriers, in our way that like it just cripples people and they finally say like, okay, this is the easiest job to do without having to sacrifice any time with no income and having to pay on top of that, right? I mean, all of
Nonetheless,
the
people came from New York, for example, and some different states to Florida, and
Mhm,
they change the location of their business because there is no more other options to work in New York, for example. The rent is
mhm,
very expensive. The people
mhm,
are, the capacity of your small, store or cafe, uh, more increased by government, and so, how much the cup of coffee is supposed to be cost? $100. That's insane. Yeah, the people moved
from
because
the rent, yeah.
yeah. I mean, for certain categories, probably that's okay. Who lives in California, for example, and they celebrity, they can pay maybe even 1,000 for the cup of coffee and don't care about it. But for the normal people who live a normal life and running to the work from 9 to 5, I woke up by alarm. So this is crazy thing. This is, and yes, and thanks to you, you're talking about the great topics, and it's very important why you have to do the license process again if you got already. So if you got driver license, for example, you just go to the DMV department and you change it, and that's it. But the different situation, but the same knowledge is you drive in the car, and if you cut in hair, you have to do all process again. What's the difference of that? Why do people have
It's
to
New
do it
York hair
again?
versus Florida hair. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the government corruption, Lynn. Because I think it's all about that all only
Oh,
about
no, I
money.
totally
Yes,
understand you.
pay us,
No,
pay
this
us.
is look,
Pay
there's a
fair share.
what happened? Oh,
Pay
yeah.
fair share. I got them $1.9 trillion. Shh.
No, seriously, I completely agree with you. This is not the only thing that's licensed in, one state and cannot be transferred to the next. I mean, like, hair cutting is the most ridiculous thing, right? I mean, come on now. Like what other regulations are you putting in?
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing, like when we have a driver's license from another country, you can transfer that driver's license without having to take an exam here. And this is why Miami's the way it is, right? I mean, like
Yes.
people are driving in their, as if like the steering wheel was in the back.
That's
So,
why so bad driving in Florida.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
serious. I'm not kidding. Like it's
It's not a
insane.
kidding. They have a
Uh-huh.
sign Prime, I'm going I-95.
Uh-huh.
So this is about that. And here's the another sad topic. I don't know we can cover it today because I know you're so busy, but maybe next Thursday. But that's very important. Also, the insurance, the auto insurance, because nobody even it's only paid for the collisions, covered collisions, or nothing. So the people driving without any auto insurance, the people cannot drive. They're driving like this. They cut you ahead of you, and that's a horrible situation. That's really horrible situation. Yeah.
No, we definitely get to talk about that because this is that we've this needs to be revamped, right? I mean,
Compare with the
insurance.
driver license, I think we have to do all process again here in Florida. 'Cause it's
Yeah, we got to
completely
teach
different.
people how to drive here. I mean, I
It's
don't
just
mean to.
Japan or Australia. Even another side of the road you have to move in.
Seriously. No, I mean, insurance is definitely one of those things, right? I think like healthcare insurance is also really big,
Oh yeah.
right? That's a big problem for us, especially those of you who are self-employed. I mean, like you have a double whammy, right? You pay more taxes than everybody else, then you also pay higher insurance than everyone else, and you don't have that freedom to shop.
I
So, I
also
mean, that's
wondering,
mhm.
Lynn, why Medicaid cover it even more than even most expensive medical insurance if you're paying for that. Well, that's a very interesting topic.
Mhm.
Yes,
I
also.
mean, insurance, this is like close to home, right? Things that affect you every day. So, I mean, these are important. Like your car insurance also. Like why is Florida car insurance like 3 times the price? And that's exactly what you were talking about, which is there's so many uninsured motorists. Why do we have uninsured motorists? And also, I mean, well, here that's where another illegal immigrant issue comes in, right? These people who are driving become Uber drivers coming from overseas, traveling, like migrating over here. What can they do? Okay, let's be a driver. Just go follow the app, And
As my
we have.
understanding, also traffic police was increased on the road because I heard from the people who live so many years in Florida, they said used to on even I-95, the highway road, it was the traffic police officer every 10 miles, for example. Now there is nobody. Nobody get the control of your speed, and they just all busy on the car accident, and that's it. So maybe not enough traffic police officers on
No,
DA.
no. When you say accident, I just find it really funny because every time I leave the house to take a trip, I will run into an accident in Miami.
Yeah.
Always. It's just almost synonymous. Like now I'm learning to factor in the traffic time, an extra 15 minutes for accidents.
Thank God
So,
it's only 15 minutes because
mhm,
the friend of mine, he came from another city to Miami and he spent all night in an accidents traffic situation. Yeah, and
mhm,
that was horrible. Yes, if you spend an hour and more because the road is closed completely. Yeah,
mhm.
and it's traffic.
Okay. Can I
See
do a
how
little
many
PR
topics we
before?
have. Yes, sure.
We covered a lot. Oh my gosh, and we still have more to talk about, right? I think
Yes.
I'd love to hear, I mean, if next time, your audience is on, like I'd love to talk about education and any
Mhm.
questions you
Oh,
have.
yeah,
I
we
have
forgot.
I have a whole vision for education in Florida, and I'm really excited to share about it and really, work on that. So for me, let's see, on the 22nd, I'm going to have a volunteer event. So if you would like to volunteer, we would do training, we would do, also get to know each other. You can ask me deeper into, the policies and the legislation that I'm looking, the policies and principles that I'm looking to advocate for to make sure like Florida stays free.
Mhm.
Okay. So we get to meet in person, we have a barbecue together. And then if you're interested, we can continue with the training. Um, please sign up on my website. It's lynnsu.com. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And sign up as a volunteer. And then we will reach out to you to invite you to the event. And so we could do all of that together. We'll reveal the location and time at that time, but it's going to be the 22nd for sure. Um,
What's the
it's
day? Is that
it's
22nd? It's
22nd is a Sunday.
Sunday. Hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
uh-huh.
Next Sunday. Cool.
Correct. So
Mhm.
Sunday we're gonna, have an event, and of course I'll invite Nick to come as well.
Yes,
And
sure, definitely.
yeah, so that's what's going on. It's time to roll up our sleeves and really get to work. There's so much to do, right? Our safety, our well-being, our families, our children, our seniors, our parents and grandparents are really on the line here, right? We really have to keep Florida free. We have to do what makes sense. We have to do what protects the people and how we can like prosper inside of this, and we've all come here because we wanted a better life and we get to keep that. So join me in the campaign, as a volunteer. And also, like, reach out to me, whenever you want. Like, I have my phone number and email on the website. If you would like to donate to the campaign to support it financially, I would really appreciate it.
And
Don't
please
forget
do
to
that,
donate.
guys, because it's very important for Lynn and for the old people who running as Republicans. Because you are really, we're looking forward
Hmm.
to get you that chair and to change the situation because really need to change the situation. Yes,
Yeah.
thanks
Hmm.
for that. Yeah, and
Yeah. And
people.
don't forget to donate to Two Cats production
Oh
too.
yeah.
Put your sign up. Put your sign up. Yeah, we want to make sure that like, if you can support monetarily, like that would be fantastic too.
It is.
So yeah, let's join me on the 22nd. Let's get to know each other a little bit better, and then we can like work together and start winning this election now.
And the
Okay.
May 19, guys, next Thursday, Lynn is gonna be with us, and we can discuss a little bit more and remind you about the Sunday, next Sunday, May
Uh-huh.
22nd, of course,
Absolutely.
yes, because it's gonna be closer to that day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn, for being with us. I really appreciate your time and
Yes.
everything you're doing, and I was so happy to be with you. I really enjoy our conversation. Thank you so much. See you next Thursday then.
Thank you for having me on. All right. Take care.
And thank you guys for being with us. To
Yes.
Cat Video Production, I think we spent that time very informative, and you got a lot of the new information from us. Thank you, and see you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.